A Song of Ice and Fire 2 is sponsored by The War for the Tower, an actual play set in the world of Stephen King's Dark Tower. Listen on the podcatcher of your choice or go to warforthetower.com.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, A Song of Ice and Fire 2, the co-host switcheroo, the rereading Return to Westeros, HBO spoiler edition, uncut, uncensored, and too in-depth with our background characters for TV. Bringing you the greatest hits from 96. Call in with your request now. These chapters are 63 and 64, Catelyn and Daenerys. In the first one, things go very, very well for our people. Mm-hmm. And in the second one, things go very, very, very badly for our people. Welcome to Some Spoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now, kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
All right, so...
Hey, before we start,
yeah.
Do you know what I miss?
What do you miss?
You going... patrons only. Because I don't do any patrons only shows anymore.
That's true. I don't really do that after I'm sober anymore, do I?
No.
I should, because it is a patrons only show.
I mean, but yeah, I mean, you know, it's just a whole different thing we got going on there.
Yeah, true.
But I miss the patrons only.
Yeah, so what did you think about this section?
You guys. Okay, I was so upset for the Daenerys chapter. I knew that this was coming. I know how this ends, and yet I was bereft. I had to think for a second if that's the word I wanted. I think that's the word I want. No, I was just like, it was so much anguish, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it really hit me in a way that I wasn't expecting. You know, I was really surprised, really surprised by my reaction to it. It just was devastating. And the way it's written, where she is clearly experiencing a miscarriage.
Yeah.
And I have not experienced that. But it was, I thought it felt more graphic than I was prepared for. You know? I think maybe on the show, I can't remember exactly how it was performed, but I don't know. There's just something about the way it was written where maybe because it was kind of like cut in with all the violence that was happening around her, you know, and then with the woman like wailing in the tent, and just like all of it all together was really overwhelming.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like legit, you know, almost tearing up, just like, oh, this is where,
yeah,
you know. And the Catelyn chapter I found really moving as well, but like in a very, very different way. You know, something about Catelyn talking about how she spent her life waiting for men to return.
Yeah.
Struck me in a way that it's like such a feeling of powerlessness, you know, just kind of, oh, my men are going off to war because that's what men do.
Yeah.
And I'm just expected to sit here and wait, and I understand that's what I have to do, and that's my role in all this, but talking about how she's waited for her father, and then for the first arc, and then for Ned, but with it being Rob, how it's just a completely different animal because this is her son. I don't know. They were just two really good chapters.
Yeah, the Daenerys one, I just didn't really remember how long and drawn out it was. The time between when she began to realize that Drogo was really ill, I was sort of hoping that somehow within this episode, or within this chapter of Daenerys's, that we would already have gotten to the point where she's got her dragon eggs in the fire. I just wanted so bad to jump ahead to that, because I was oh, this is going to be so awful to read. And I had to really push myself to stay focused and just, it was just, there's things like that in a lot of different books that we love, I think, where we get to this spot and we're like, I just really don't want to do this to myself again. I don't want to read this again. And the part where, I'm going to head of myself. Let's talk about the first of the two chapters, Catelyn.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, she is trying to cope with the fact that this is her role. That just standing and waiting, watching from afar, not being able to actually have a hand in the fate of everybody, is really difficult. And she's let's see, I'm trying to find the spot. Brandon Stark had bid her wait as well. I shall not be long, my lady, he had vowed. We will be wed on my return. Yet when the day came at last, it was his brother Eddard who stood beside her in the sept. Ned had lingered scarcely a fortnight before he, too, had ridden off to war. Good God,
Yeah.
She gave birth by herself. He wasn't even there.
Wasn't even sure if he was still alive.
Yeah.
Would he ever even... she has this son and doesn't know if her husband is ever even going to see him. It is something I think that might be... Well, I mean, I guess for some people, people who are married to people who are in the military, this is a real thing for them. But for most of us, this is not anything we really ever have to deal with,
Yeah.
And definitely not for each of the men in our lives, even if you are married to someone who's in the active military, there's the odds that also your parent and also your children, I mean, that does happen, but I would imagine not as often as it used to.
Yeah.
So to have an entire life history that it's just, you waiting for a series of men to hopefully return home is hard to wrap your brain around.
Yeah, this whole... So she's watching Rob, and he's got his armor on. I really love a moment here where he puts his helmet on. And now Rob isn't there anymore. Yeah, and it's this really weird moment for her of just what the fuck? I often find that to be sort of an arresting effect in movies and TV shows where you'll be up against a villain who's fighting with a face mask of some kind on, and then you get to a point where you get to yank it off, and you're truly oh.
Yeah, you're just a guy.
Oh, you're just some dude and you're really sweaty. Yikes.
Right.
And it's just amazing how dehumanizing a mask can be. And that works to their advantage in this case. That's the point, is to make yourself just look inhuman, you're fierce as well. That's part of the design that goes into helms like this. But yeah, it's just a really weird thing to see, a mother experiencing that moment, watching her son turn into a stranger. Right.
And we get reminded, which is helpful for me, again, that he's just 15. That little, because, as I'm reading, and I've said this before, I can't help but visualize the actors, and there's no real way around that. I can't make myself not see them. So I appreciate that as I'm going along and I'm seeing what to me looks like a 22 or 23-year-old Robb Stark be like, oh wait, no, this kid is 15. We also get a shout out to someone named Daisy Mormont.
Yes.
And hello, who is this?
Who indeed?
It's the Lady Mage, her eldest daughter. So this is pretty exciting, and I don't know if this is someone I'll get to see later, but I loved the little introduction and how there's because Daisy is chosen to be one of the guard that's going to be around Robb. And then Catelyn also has a guard that's going to be around her. And I like the little moment that, like, he wanted, like, 50 for her. And she only wanted 10, so they compromised at 30.
Yes, I like that, too. Neither of them were satisfied with it. That's the sign of a good negotiation.
Right? That's exactly what I thought. But I don't... in the show, you know, we had Brienne of Tarth, who was, you know, just amazing, played by the, you know, wonderful Gwendolyn Brooks. And she was kind of a one-off in the whole entire series. You know, we get Lady Mormont towards the end of the show, and, you know, the little girl, and she was, you know, very fun and fierce in her own right, but, you know, but it was a different thing.
Right.
If Brienne of Tarth exists in the books the way she does in the show, and we have this lady, that's already 2.
Yeah.
Which is twice as many as we got in the show.
Yep.
So I really, really like that. And I hope that I am not, like, setting myself up for, like, deep disappointment when she dies, like, in the next chapter.
So... there's, let's see, where is it? Let him grow taller, she asked the gods. Let him know 16 and 20 and 50. Let him grow tall as his father and hold his own son in his arms. Please, please, please.
Yeah.
And her son asks how large is the host that's coming towards them, and they tell him 12,000, which I just can't wrap my head around these numbers. I really can't.
And that's just on foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Kingslayer has us 3-1. Yet there is one thing Sir Jaime lacks: patience, which does indeed turn out to be the case.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that the majority of this chapter is her observing Robb prepare for this battle that's coming. She is watching him talk with his bannermen and his commanders. She's watching him strategize about their attack and noting that, you know, how Ned taught him to read maps and how Ned had taught him to make sure your men see you before the battle. And he goes and he has like a sort of rapport with some, and he's making contact and you know, just sort of bolstering up the morale of his troops, and just how much he's learned from Ned, and then letting him go off to this battle that she can't even really see, but she can kind of hear.
Yeah,
you know, she can hear it kind of like on the wind, I guess, bits and pieces, and it's just a lot of her. It feels like she's watching a thing that she spent her whole life watching in various degrees, you know? Like, it's one thing to be raising a kid to be like Lord of Winterfell at some point, you know, and he's learning how to fight, and he's learning how to read maps, and learning how to deal with the men, and all that shit. And it's an entirely different thing to see them, like, actually doing all that shit for real, you know?
Yep.
And it's like so much is made of what a transition it must be for Robb, which is true because he's the one that's like doing all this shit. But it's also a real transition for her, you know?
Definitely.
Of letting him go and letting him take the lead and not challenging him in front of the men and all that kind of shit, you know?
Yep. Yeah, this is, again, part of why I don't want to have kids, because it's all about eventually learning to relinquish your control and accept that bad things might happen and you don't get to say that they don't.
Yeah.
And oh my God, just kill me. That's too much for me, everybody. No, thank you.
It is definitely asking a lot. It's like that, I'm gonna like jab my toe on purpose later as penance for what I'm about to say. But it's that really bad cliche about having a child is like wearing your heart on the outside.
Oh, God, right.
And as cheesy as that is, I'll be damned if that doesn't seem like the most perfect description of it. Because that's exactly what that shit seems like to me.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, it's just too much, guys. I don't like being vulnerable anyway. Thank you, no.
Yeah. I don't know how people do it. I would be the most unreasonable parent ever. Like, my kid would not be allowed to do practically anything.
Same.
I would be terrible.
I would probably be this, unfortunate combo of, okay, so you were definitely playing Animal Crossing for 4 hours straight and didn't notice that I wasn't home the whole time playing with my friends and watching porn because you were very busy doing nothing. But then you feel like you want to wake up and control what I'm doing when you've been absent this entire time. I think it would be a very bad combo.
That sounds terrible.
Yes, indeed. I think it's best for everyone that this isn't what happens.
Oh my goodness.
Thanks. Backing away now.
That was way worse than what I thought you were going to say. Holy shit.
That's a part of the thing with being pretty sure that I have some problems with time losses. I think I've talked to you about this. I just have no concept of time. And I feel that's just a bad thing to have.
Your kid is just going to be
with a child.
Making Kraft macaroni for dinner again.
Because I look up at 11 and I'm like, oh, did you want something to eat? And they're like, no, I'm good. Thanks,
my God.
Mom.
Yeah, no. My kid would be an insufferable, homeschooled know-it-all that's allergic to everything and doesn't play nicely with others.
Oh, God.
It would be like some fucking Grey Garden shit, which is me. I'm like... God. If anybody's ever curious why I didn't have children, go ahead and watch that documentary.
The other one is trying to avoid the trap that we all fell into, being told that we were talented and gifted, and then thinking that life was going to be somehow easier for us because of that. So I would just go the other way and be like, that you're not that special, right? I love you. Oh my God. But nobody else is going to give a shit. So just be ready for the fact that, I love you, and there will be the occasional person who loves you and cares, but mostly
but that's about it.
Nobody gives a shit. Sorry. It sucks, I agree. The look you're giving me is the look I also had when I discovered this. But I'm trying to speed it up so that this isn't a shock for you eventually.
Really, I'm trying to do you a favor.
I'm trying to help you. I'm not good at helping. I'm a bad helper. Give me tasks, I'm great. Try and put me in a position where I need to have empathy while I explain a thing. Not my strong point.
No, not where you shine.
Not where I shine. It's a much more compassionate way of putting that.
That's what I do.
So then Rob says, I must ride down the line, Mother. Father says you should let the men see you before a battle. It will give them courage. So he goes ahead and is basically chest bumping against everybody. Pretty much.
High-fiving.
Yeah. And let's see. Daisy Mormont, Lady Mage's eldest daughter and heir to Bear Island, a lanky 6-footer who had been given a Morning Star at an age when most girls were given dolls. Some of the other lords muttered about that, but Catelyn would not listen to their complaints. This is not about the honor of your houses. This is about keeping my son alive and whole.
Yeah. I like it. I like it a lot.
Mm-hmm. So then they hear a bird call, and somebody's like, here they come. And she's like, yeah fucking, I know, thanks. I just really love this. She's like, always a man for stating the obvious. I'm like, he just said, here they come. Relax, Catelyn. But she's upset. So See, at last she saw him, only for an instant, framed between the branches of the trees as she looked down at the valley floor.
I thought she was talking about Rob.
Nope. Even at a distance, Sir Jaime Lannister was unmistakable. The moonlight had silvered his armor and the gold of his hair and turned his crimson cloak to black. He was not wearing a helm.
No, he was not. Which I love how just saying he wasn't wearing a helm tells you everything right there. He is not a threat. She didn't see him leading an army. He's not wearing a helm. That means that motherfucker been caught. He got caught.
See, I thought it was he wasn't wearing a helm because he is so certain he doesn't have shit to worry about. That he is like, I'm not wearing a helmet. For you guys? Oh, come on. No, let's all be honest here. I am way better at this than any of you.
I totally took it as like the analogy you made just a few minutes ago about the villain being unmasked. Like, oh, he doesn't have the helm on. I
don't think that he's been caught yet here.
I thought it was.
No, he was there and he was gone again, his silver armor obscured by the trees. Others came behind, columns of them, knights and sworn swords and free riders, 3/4 of a Lannister horse. And Brynden says he's no man for sitting in a tent while his carpenters build siege towers. She
says that he had promised.
Well, yeah,
see, that's the other thing too about the way this is written is I'm confused a little bit on like how much she's remembering what is happening in real time. So I thought this was them bringing Jaime, but you're saying this is her watching him come up to the battle.
Yeah, I think that they're like in a valley for the actual fight, and she's on a ridge on one side of it, and she sees Jaime crest the hill on the other side.
Oh, okay.
And he's coming down to like engage. But he's not wearing a helm because he's just like, I am super duper not worried about y'all.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, because then it goes, because she's having the memory about basically what they have decided, what they know about Jaime is that he can't fucking sit still.
Right.
He is going to go out at every opportunity, whether it's somebody raiding or if it's, somebody coming too close to the camp. He's not just going to sit and let other people go out. He's got to be in the mix all the time. And they're counting on that.
Yeah.
Because instead of just engaging the entire army, they're going to, like, go after him and snatch his ass up. So, yeah, I misread that completely. And now I'm sad because I like the idea of him being, brought in all pitiful, which does happen later.
It does,
so I guess I still kind of get that. So, all right, I'll call it a wash.
Being brought in all pitiful. So, as you say, it does jump back and forth between, like, what they discussed beforehand versus what's actually happening now. Here was the hush in the night. Here was her son on his stallion. Here was the call of Mage Mormont's war horn. And Grey Wind threw back his head and howled. And then we have her hearing all of the sounds of the fight. And just trying to keep her fucking cool. Really, really hard. Because all she can do is just listen. And eventually it's so dark and impossible to see anything that she just closes her eyes to make it so that her hearing is a little bit more acute.
Yeah. She can hear, like, men shouting the names of their houses and families. She can kind of hear the sound of, like, metal on metal. And she can hear, like, cries of, like, pain. But there's no way to distinguish who's doing the crying,
True.
It just must be just this fucking, cacophony.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is a fun word.
Cacophony?
Yeah,
Agreed.
It's a fun word.
Yeah, I like that. And this is when the battle really begins. Afterward, it says, well, first, then she blinked, and they were only men rushing down to kill or die.
Yeah, there's this wonderful bit right before she blinks where she's describing that is like moonlight on the points of their lances as if 1,000 will-o-wisps.
Yeah.
And then she blinks, and they're just men dying.
Yep. War is so annoying.
It really is a bummer, guys. Don't do it.
Don't do it. I mean, there are times where I get it. Like, yeah, we should probably just really do it now, honestly. But it just sucks. We should just do some more real quick.
Just let's not
over
do
the
some
weekend.
more. I say stop doing war.
Do you?
Don't do war.
I'm surprised to hear this.
I know, right? I'm deeply violent. It's really funny to me in a very upsetting way how little awareness I really have about how filled with rage and violent I can be.
Oh God, I'm so hyper aware of it in myself. I don't know how you that must be really nice, I think.
I tend to look at myself as though I am practically a pacifist.
What?
I do. I look at myself as being someone who rarely loses her temper, never flies off. I have, you guys.
You told the stories about yelling at a homeless guy.
I know.
Oh my God.
But I don't think of myself that way. I put up a post today because I've been really going through it at work. It has been especially challenging. And I put up a post today saying that, and I've told the story on the podcast before, and because you have a similar story, that I once threw a full plate of food at my boss's head and walked out in the middle of the shift.
Yep.
And I posted that I'm putting this up here just to remind myself not to get so stressed out about my job. I've had way worse jobs. But, it occurs to me that just because you and I are friends and that you have done it, I feel well, of course, everybody has done it. But it's probably, the true thing is more, I probably make friends with people who are likely to have done something like that.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. So there's this group that I'm in where people post asking for advice or they just share funny stories. And somebody posted this amazing comment. They're like, okay, so my friend is dating this new gal, and I thought it was all going pretty well. But apparently, she just can't formulate an opinion on anything. Every time he asks her what she thinks about something, she doesn't have a definitive answer. And he finally just asked her, well, what is it that makes you mad? And he thought she was going to say something about injustice in the world. And instead she said, I got really upset one time when they didn't take my destination tag off my luggage like they were supposed to. That was her answer. And I was just like, what is that like, though? What is it like to not be angry all the time?
Do you remember that? Oh my God, I know people are so fucking sick of it. I can't help it. The episode of Seinfeld where he's dating that woman and she's like, I think you need to be more in touch with your feelings.
Oh God.
And he gets really emotional for the whole episode. and then he asked for skim milk or something, and the waitress is like, we have 1%. He goes, 1%? You can kiss 1% of my ass.
I do not remember this. Oh my God.
It's so good. And then he gets really, really, really emotional. He tells Elaine that they were meant to be together and that they should get married, and she backs out of the apartment really uncomfortable. And then George comes in and he's being all sensitive Jerry, and he's like, just tell me. And George launches into whatever the fuck he's gonna launch into, and it does it a fast cut, and then when it comes back, Jerry's face is in horror. And that's what cures him of being overly emotional.
Oh God.
It was too much George. But anyway.
It's just, I don't remember a time when I wasn't like this. And that was before I even, started to, quote, get woke at all. So, I already was functioning, when I went with my mom to her drum circle with her lesbian friends.
Oh, my God.
They asked me to draw a stone out of this bag, and it was runes to signify what represented me, and the one that I drew was anger. And my mom saw it and sort of was like, oh. as if, like, this was news. And the fucking reaction that I had to seeing that this thing said anger was this volcanic, how fucking dare. And I, like, kept it under control, and I didn't show anything. But it was one of those moments of, like, I did not think that was true, and then it was pointed out, and it immediately was proven right. Like, the second that I heard the word, anger, I was like... And I just had to really pipe down on it. And so, like, going your whole life feeling like that, and then you do begin to get woke. It's not great! The combo sucks! I hate it! All the time, I'm, like, a step away from throwing something.
Oh my
or
God.
Someone.
I just, someone reminded me that I spent, like, the last several years of high school literally just yelling at people on the street. Like, I would get so angry all the time, and I would end up in these, like, screaming matches with people. I was just out of my mind.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, I'm really, really lucky I didn't get, like, beat up more. Definitely lucky I never got, like, shot or murdered.
I am a little jealous that you've been in fights, though. Like...
but not in a really long time, because those things are no good.
I just would like it... Like, I don't really want it now, because I'm too old for it, it feels like. I don't know, it feels like. Maybe not. I've been weightlifting. But I would have liked to have had it once in my life, to just be like, yeah, I fought. Nope, never has happened.
Yeah, that's good though. That's good because it's getting hit is like unpleasant.
Oh yeah, in my mind, that's not a factor. I get in a fight, I'm not getting hit. Like that's not happening. I'm a Jaime Lannister. I'm not wearing my helm. I'm not worried about you.
Oh my God!
All right, so hiss of arrows, thunder of drums, terrified screaming of 1,000 horses. Men shouted curses and begged for mercy, and got it or not, and lived or died. The ridges seemed to play queer tricks with sound. Once she heard Rob's voice as clear as if he'd been standing at her side, calling, "To me, to me!" And she heard his dire wolf snarling and growling, heard the snap of those long teeth, the tearing of flesh, shrieks of fear and pain from man and horse alike. Was there only one wolf? It was hard to be certain. Little by little, the sounds dwindled and died, until at last there was only the wolf. As a red dawn broke in the east, gray wind began to howl again. And Rob comes back to her. He's got a whole different horse now.
Whole different horse. His shield is mangled.
Yep.
But he's doing okay. And she thinks he's hurt, but he's not. All the blood on him that she's noticing that she thought was an injury belong to his friends and his bannermen. It's Torrin and...
He thinks it is. He's like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that's true. He's like, it might be. And we find out, oh my God, fucking Theon.
This motherfucker.
I know he has this shit-eating grin on his face.
I hate him so much.
Like, I don't want to hate him just yet, but you know what? I kind of already do.
I just hate him for him being like, let's execute Jaime Lannister. You idiot. You fucking idiot. What is wrong with you?
You have a much better reason to hate him. I didn't even think about that.
What was yours? It was just like, he's smiling too much.
Just on GP. Just like, yeah. He just is not very smart, right? So book Theon is not going to be any smarter than show Theon is what I'm wagering. Because this is just not a smart thing to do. And it's funny because Rob disagrees and tells him no, but what he says the reason is not, he says he's worth more or less alive than dead. Mm-hmm. But then he also says, and my father said you don't murder prisoners. So it's like a little bit of both for Rob, as opposed to it being purely, a wise decision. And Jaime is like a wise man and honorable because he just can't. He doesn't know how to be quiet. Jaime Lannister does not know how to not say the thing out loud.
You're
like,
right.
Just think the thing to yourself, dude. It's fine. But nope, he's one of those people that just has to say it out loud all the time, forever and ever and ever.
Yep.
And is one of the things I like least about him.
I bet if you asked him, he'd probably say that was one of the things he liked least about himself.
Really? I think he likes everything about himself just fine.
Yeah, I guess that's true. You know what? You got me there. All right, that's fair.
He's one of those people to be like, you know what I hate about myself? My hair is too beautifully golden. He's like fucking Jenna Maroney.
I hate how my hair is just... It's got too much body and sheen.
Right? My skin is just so clear. It's such a burden.
So, yeah, this whole bit, like, with Theon, he's, like, trying to act like, yeah, we really got them. We've taken 100 knights captive. We've taken a dozen bannermen captive. And she's like, okay, was Lord Tywin any of those people? No? Okay, then I don't give a fuck. Is really what it comes down to. She really
is. And she's just like, until you do that, you can just shut the fuck up about it. They mentioned that, well, as Theon is, bragging, he named some people, and most of them I don't particularly care about, but he does say they took 3 Lannisters besides Jaime. They took Tywin's nephews, 3 of them, 2 of his sisters and 1 of his brothers. And I know that on the show there are Lannister cousins because Cersei sleeps with one of them.
Oh, right. I forgot.
Right?
About that, yeah.
But I never thought, and I don't think the show, or maybe it did and I forgot. But so we knew that she was, what's his name? Lancel, right? On the show, we knew that was a relative, it was a cousin, but I don't think I ever stopped to be like, who's his mom and daddy? And do they play it all in this story? And I don't know if they do in the books or not, but something about maybe getting to meet more than just the fucking 3 Lannisters would be kind of cool. So I don't know if that's a thing or not, but I just wanted to mention it.
Okay. So it ends with, my mother's right, we still have River Run. And then we go to Daenerys.
We go to the awful... Oh, my God, girl.
It's for you, Miles. You're out there listening. What's up, buddy?
Oh, my God. Miles is not listening to this.
Yeah, he is.
I thought he's sworn off all of everything this property has to say and do.
I'm pretty sure he's listening to this. Miles, let me know if you're listening
Miles.
to this. But yeah, I think he is. I think he can't help himself. You sick fuck.
Yeah. He mostly, in his defense, he swore off HBO, not the books, right?
I mean, I think that is what... you saw the thing I posted about George signing this new deal, right?
Girl, I sure did.
I swear to God, this motherfucker. He is so trifling. I am sick of his face. I can't with him anymore. And look, I posted this in the group, and a lot of people came to his defense, and I'm not even, mad about that because I get what they're all saying, but I swear to God, I have no time for him anymore. I am impatient and done.
For a while, it felt like he was, legit trolling. But now I think he might have gotten himself into a pickle, and maybe he can't finish these fucking books. And that makes me feel really sad for him.
Yeah. Candace made a comment about how, she wrote a fanfic, and people were so aggressive about wanting more that it, ruined the experience of writing for her. And she's like, that just might have happened to him. The muse might be dead. And I'm like, honestly, that makes more sense than anything to me. It's just this, oh, God, this is not fun anymore. But also... I am entitled, and I want it. Give me.
I want this book you owe me.
You owe
that
it
I haven't
to
even
me.
paid for yet.
Give me.
It's a weird thing because you don't know how or what inspires a person to be able to complete a body of work, right? And I also believe that you can fuck around and lose it. You know, you get too distracted, other things come up in your life or whatever, and you just assume you'll be able to plop back down in that chair and crank that shit out. And then you go to plop and nothing happens.
Ew.
Right? I know that sounds terrible. My phrasing is always so bad on these shows, you guys. I swear I don't sound like this in real life.
You go to plop and nothing happens. I still like poo. That's a inside joke for the patron group. Anyway.
For people who are not patrons, I do not like poo. It's just what I'm going
thinks
on
that
the
just
record.
protests too much.
It was a
No, I
typo.
don't. I don't like poo.
Stop sending me poo.
Oh my God.
Okay, but my point is, right, so how can he say out loud to anyone, yo, I think it's gone, I'm not going to be able to finish those books? Mm-hmm. Like, how does he say that?
Yeah.
You know? So basically, he just has to hope that he stays busy enough with other shit and then he dies. So that it'll just all be over.
Yep.
You know? And then we'll all be like, oh, he died before he could finish the books. As opposed to, oh, that motherfucker, he couldn't finish those books. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's a difference, though.
Oh, well.
Yeah. How, if I finish these fucking books and he hasn't finished the series by the time I catch up?
Do you see what? Do you see where I'm coming from here? Because for me, this is like I've invested a lot of time into these books because of the podcast, and nobody made me. Granted, but it's just hurtful to spend this kind of time and not have it like resolved.
Bitch,
ever.
He might not.
I mean, we might not.
We might live in a world where he doesn't. Maybe he'll VC Andrews it, and like somebody will write him after he dies, and they'll be like, "Oh, these were in the vault the whole time." Wink, wink, shrug.
Oh my God, I would love that actually.
I mean, give us something.
And like, there are some people who are saying, "Well, we already know how everything ends anyway, so it doesn't really matter." But I don't think we know how it ends, really. Like, we know how the show did it, but there's a lot of shit in the air that in the books that isn't even in the show. So there's a lot of unanswered questions just on that front. And then there's the fact that I don't think it's going to go the same way, a lot of it. So
I you know what? I'm in no position to have a real opinion on this, but here I go anyway. I don't think he planned on it ending the way the show ended.
Definitely.
And I think that he may start, if he hasn't already, start coming out more vocally suggesting that, yeah, the show got it, as if to take pressure off of him and our expectations for, you know, needing the series to be written. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of like, oh, well, the show pretty much told it anyway, so why? But no, at Goodwill, that's not what you had planned. Why are you playing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Which would just be so sad.
I don't even remember what it is, the project that he signed up for with them.
He got a development deal, so it's not even a specific project. It's like a intend to do several things.
Gotcha, okay.
Kind of deal. You know, it wasn't like they announced a specific thing. But he's going to just, I mean, they already have the one show in the works. The sort of prequel situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be watching any of that stuff either. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, same. I don't have that much interest is my problem. Because they just have been so unreliable with other things they've created that I just don't really want to get invested in it.
Yeah. I'm worried about the same thing. Like, even though if I understand, I don't know who's working on the Westeros. That's D&D, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, see, I don't think I see it for them, y'all.
That's it.
Chrissy Teigen gif. That's the face I'm making right now.
Yep.
So, yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe it'll look so good, you know, production values will be so great and there'll be enough hype around it. Because I do miss the experience of watching something that big that we were all watching together, you know?
Definitely.
And I don't think I have another show that's replaced it like that for me. Even as good as, like, the Marvel shows are, you watch them whenever the fuck you feel like watching them. So there's not a whole we're all sitting in front of the TV at the same time kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that when is that show meant to air? Do you know?
Girl, I don't know.
I'm going to look it up, but I was going to say that The House of the Dragon is what it's called. Release date, cast, and more. Let's see. This is from 18 days ago. This is recent. Sometime. Oh my God. House of the Dragon will be soaring onto our screen sometime in the future. It's the first sentence.
Holy shit. That doesn't inspire confidence. Trying to be all non-committal.
Here it is. Speculated it would release, quote, sometime in 2022. So, that's their estimate. So, we'll definitely be in the midst of our coverage when that shit comes out.
Yeah.
Here's my proposal. That you and I have like a 30-minute House of the Dragon segment within the regular book coverage, where if we've been watching the show, we'll just discuss it real quick and just be like, yeah, that was bullshit, or that was really good. I thought that was really interesting. And then we'll move on to the show, or the book.
That's fun.
What do you think?
Yeah, that might be doable.
And that way, because I don't want to just totally ignore it, but I don't want to start a whole new show for it.
Right.
So,
I mean, if it turns out to be really good and really worth digging into, then we can, think about that at the time. But other than getting ourselves all, Lord, I cannot with these questions.
What
Somebody
question?
asked if I'm just, how Google sometimes just, related searches. Mm-hmm. And one of the top searches is if Daenerys is going to be on the show. Like, people.
Should be an infant, first of all. And
I mean, maybe towards the end of the show, this shit is supposed to be 300 years.
Yeah, I mean, like, whatever. Yes, she will.
Yes, she will.
There it is. Boom, done.
God, this motherfucker already has a wiki. How?
The show? Ma'am.
Yeah. It says House of the Dragon.
I mean, they've got like casting information and stuff. You could do a wiki with that.
Yeah, that's exactly what the fuck they did too. Because this information that they have is like thin, but they already have episode. What? You know what? Let me put this phone down.
Yeah, I was about to be like, look, we can't do this. Owen was asking me whether or not I have thought about creating an unspoiled wiki. And it would obviously, when he says, would you ever, he's like, would people ever? Because I sure fucking wouldn't. But wikis are usually fan created, Mm-hmm. But I just, don't feel like there's enough lore surrounding Unspoiled. Yeah, and I kind of want to come up with some now.
I mean...
Crazy weird backstories.
Oh my goodness. I don't ever want to be a part of a wiki about anything, so...
That's fair.
I'm really uncomfortable with the idea of that. I'm just barely comfortable with the idea of podcasting, which we should probably get back to.
Yeah, I guess. Fine. All right. 'Cause I don't want to talk about it, is the thing.
That's what it is. I don't want to talk about this chapter either. It's terrible from the beginning to the end. It's just pages and pages and pages of Drogo dying. Mm-hmm. When he falls off his horse, you guys.
Yeah, that's rough.
Oh, it's such a weird thing, too, because, again, this is something I've seen, but when I was reading it and he fell, I felt the thud of him hit the dirt. Oof. And then I felt it, I don't know how else to explain it, I felt, as I was reading it, all the eyes and the shock and the sort of the losing of respect in real time. Like in that one motion of him falling. Because, you know enough about the Dothraki that falling off your horse. That's a fucking problem. Yep. And it's so significant, I'm like, I was trying to think of, something comparable in our lives, Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there are terrible things that you could do, but I was trying to think of something that could lower your standing in your community, but that wasn't your fault. So, I mean, I'm looking for examples, not of like, you know, your neighborhood priest gets caught, you know, molesting children. No,
right.
That's some fucked up shit you did. You deserved a downfall. But something where it's just like something happens to you and everything that you've worked for and your standing and the respect you get is just stripped away, you know, and it's completely out of your control. And I was having a hard time coming up with anything, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some people might think, oh, well, you know, what if you had a lot of money and then you lost it all? And I guess, you know.
It's weird because we're not part of a community that would really care.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, I can't imagine losing respect for someone because they lost their money.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's just not how I live. So it doesn't really stand up for me. But I'm
thinking, like, maybe what if you, like, had a position of power in town and you, like, got let go? Like, so you were able to affect things and you were sort of somebody in a position of influence that other people was, like, were kissing your ass because they knew you could help them. And then all of a sudden they, like, do away with your position entirely. But that's, like... It just feels toothless.
Right. I think the thing, I think the reason I'm struggling to come up with a comparison is because I don't personally have any relationships that would mimic the relationship a cow has, you know. So that's why it's hard for me to come up with something. Because as Jorah says later, you know, because Dany is struggling the way me and you are. Like, no, they love him. They want him to. And he's like, no. His power is only resting in, you know, how he fights and the strength he has. The minute that's gone, there's no, except for the Blood Riders, which that turns out to be a very, very serious occupation.
Yes. Yeah, they signed up for some shit I was surprised by, personally.
I had to read it twice. It sounds like after they get Daenerys back to
Vaes
that they're going to kill themselves, which is
right.
That is really, really serious.
Yes, indeed.
But that shit is intense. But the rest of the Khalasar, they're just like, no, he can't ride. He's dying. You are no one, Khaleesi.
Yeah.
You know, you are nothing to us. And Jorah has to be like, we should probably go. And she can't wrap her head around it. She's like, what do you mean, go? Yeah.
This is something that's like, because she was raised with a very Westerosi set of values, she thinks that they're like pledging and giving vows is something that carries through no matter what position. And they're like, no, we pledged that as long as he could fucking sit on his horse. That's the deal.
And the thing too about pledging is it feels like she is thinking that being a cow is like pledging to the king or to the throne.
Exactly.
Right? Which it doesn't matter who's sitting on the throne. Like, you know, one dies and the son takes his spot. You know, and because she even says to Jorah something like, well, our son will grow up and he will be cow. And Jorah's like, no, it's not, doesn't work like that.
Yeah. He's like, you know, your kid's going to get killed because they don't want to deal with him in the future.
Listen, Jorah watched The Godfather, he knows.
Yeah, so she's just, and it's almost like I wish that she could, and maybe she does, I want her to internalize this lesson a lot because, like, really, when it comes down to it, this is also how Westeros works, honestly. They pretend they have this whole other thing going on, but they don't really. It's true. It's this.
I'm glad you said that.
They just have a fucking veneer over it that makes it seem like there's more rhyme and reason to it. But nah, it comes down to, can you kill me? If you can, I guess you get to have this thing.
Yeah, because in my example, when I talk about, you know, pledging fealty to the throne, and it doesn't matter who sits on it, like, that works for that one moment, but we do know it matters because, you know, once Targaryen wasn't on it and Robert was on it,
Yep.
you know, there was some different shit, and Daenerys remembers, or I think she remembers on her own, she was thinking about the stories Viserys told her about what they did to the children, to the babies. And, what did she say? They smashed his head up against the wall?
Yeah, they bashed his brains out.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And y'all supposed to be the civilized ones? So.
And I think the, little girl who was, 12, they raped.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
What is with all the rape?
That's
And I don't just
question
mean
for
in the
ages.
books. I mean everywhere. Like, Jesus Christ. We are fucking just... Ugh. What are we even?
Yeah, we're scum.
We really are.
We're scum. I just saw a screen cap from that moment in Good Omens, where David Tennant is talking to Michael Sheen and says they're watching the crucifixion, and David Tennant says to Michael Sheen, "What did he say that got them so upset?" And Michael Sheen says, "Be kind to one another." And he says, "Oh yeah, that'll do it." And it's just such a fucking it's so true, and it's such an indictment of us as just beings. Like, we shouldn't. We just shouldn't.
We just shouldn't.
End
why are we even? That'll do it. That's pretty good.
So, yeah, this, she finally decides that she is willing to get the Meiji involved. It turns out she is indeed a Meiji, even though she tries to be like, no, I don't do that shit. She's like, okay, I kind of do that shit. And they are not happy about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, they are really, really not happy about this woman's magic. And when it comes out that there really is, real magic, because Drogo has been taking off the little compress she made for him. And, it's funny, as I was reading this too, I want to mention, last time we talked, last episode, we were talking about Daenerys trusting her to, to heal Drogo, and whether it was wise to trust someone that your man just ruined her whole life.
Right.
Even if you did save her from, there's that rape again, save her from being raped, she still is, has lost so much at their hands. But now, because that's kind of what happened in the show anyway. What I remember in the show is that when he dies and she loses the baby, she basically is like, ha ha ha. That's what you get, right? That was not a really good reenactment. Ha ha ha. Wow. But you know what I mean, right? I've trained at all the finest theaters. But now that I'm reading this, and because she comes in and she's like, what happened to the fucking first aid I did, basically. And he's been drinking a lot of the milk of the poppy too. It sounds like she really was trying to help him.
It sounds that way, and I'm not totally sure if we find out for sure, or because part of me, she's like, well, burning is healing. And I'm like, is it? Or did you make that shit burn because you knew he'd yank it off and you were just going to be like, well, I tried my best. Not my fault.
Yeah, I'm really going back and forth on what her intentions and motivations are. So I'm looking forward to at least getting to the end of this bit. Just so I can, put a pin in that. Because I really am like, oh, well, it seems like she's trying to help. And later, when Daenerys is basically begging her, and she says, you do not ask a slave. And I said, ooh. Because it was just... But that is some really powerful shit, and it doesn't get discussed. We move right on to the next fucking thing that's happening in this chapter. But it is such a fucking reminder, that Yeah, you're holding me against my will. You know,
I know that you think being polite to me is going to somehow mitigate the fact that I'm enslaved, but it really doesn't. That's not helpful for me.
And it's just like, it's real quick, and it just, it's in and out, bobbing and weaving. But I swear, that little line, I was just like, well, god damn. Anyway, it just hit me. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. So she tells Daenerys, this shit's gonna cost you, though. Life for a life. And Daenerys says, my life? And she says, no, not your life. And Daenerys is like, all right, then. And I'm like, you dumb bitch. Hello?
It seems like it doesn't even occur to her that is on the table.
Yeah.
And I guess we're supposed to think, well, she's so, she's desperate, and she's desperate for a lot of different reasons. One, it's becoming very clear that she is not going to be safe without Drogo, right? And that her child isn't going to be safe. So she's really like tunnel vision. But it is really, really unbelievable to me that she doesn't even for a second consider her child.
I think the reason for this is that it just doesn't occur to her it would be possible to kill the child without hurting her. Because she doesn't believe in magic per se. I think she does, but that she thinks it's going to be like, well, I will kill something and that will do it. The way that she sees the horse being sacrificed feels much more transactional in a way that she was willing to accept. But there's, if her child was in her arms, then this would feel much more of a possibility. But instead, the child's not born yet, and how could she possibly be a threat to this unborn child without hurting Daenerys? Daenerys is very far along at this point, almost ready to give birth. So that would kill her too, likely, if that were, going to be what she attempted to do. So I think it just doesn't seem possible. So it doesn't enter her mind, but I just really want to slap and shake her. Like, that girl, what are you doing?
It's such a glaring oversight on her part, which, like, with the reasons you just gave and the stress of her current situation, the desperation she feels to save Drogo, because she is this, regardless of how we feel about their marriage, it seems to me very clear that she loves him. Yeah. Right? And wants him to be, she doesn't want him to die. And she's willing to do just about anything that she's willing to sacrifice. She thinks she's willing to sacrifice anything. That's the best way to say it, right? She thinks she's willing to sacrifice anything in order to ensure his recovery. We know later that it turned out, that was not the case. And she has quite a back and forth with the other riders. Oh, yeah. They don't want this woman anywhere near Drogo. They are like refusing to go summon her. There's fights breaking out because now like her guards are fighting some of the other guys, and Jorah has to come in and like take somebody's head off or something. Things get really crazy.
Eventually, people are just leaving. She looks around and there's fucking saddling their horses and bailing.
Yeah, because they know. I think Jorah is trying to explain to her too that like once Drogo dies, these guys, and he names them, right, they're gonna fucking fight it out. And people who people who were slaves are gonna make a break for it. Right. This is gonna be their time to fucking bounce. People who are worried about their standing should one guy win over the other guy, they're like making breaks for it. And it's bedlam. It is the whole little society that they have created. This little, I don't want to call it small because it's supposed to be several thousand people in the cow, right? But it is falling apart around her.
Yep. It's I think she just really underestimates too the taboo of using this magic. Because they're just like, this is forbidden. You can't do this.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's not forbidden if I say it's not forbidden. I'm like, that's not how that kind of shit works. Yep. A taboo isn't just like until somebody gives the A-OK. A taboo is something that is so ingrained that even if it's proven that it's not an issue, like, people have a hard time actually believing because they have learned for so long this is how it is. You know, just to take a weird example, people wouldn't believe that tomatoes weren't poisonous. Tomatoes were just considered completely off limits because they were seen as poisonous because they were a nightshade. And you could have people eating them right in front of somebody's face and they would just be like, yeah, well, maybe it's a slow-acting poison. I'm not fucking with that.
Is that true?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
And
tomatoes are delicious.
Tomatoes are like my favorite food.
They're really good. And I did not know that they were nightshade, and I just vaguely know what that means.
Them and bell peppers. A lot of peppers, I guess, actually. But
get out.
Yeah.
I know it's a fruit.
I mean, if you have like a green pepper, it'll taste a little tobacco-y sometimes. The green ones before they're ripe. It can be kind of weird, actually. You're just like, what is that? But yeah. So she just doesn't get what this means, is what I'm saying.
There's when she starts to get ready to work the spell, they're going to like kill a horse. And the gang is just like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And she says, this is what she says too about it not being forbidden. She says, well, I ate a whole heart.
Girl, that's their ritual. That's not the same thing. You don't get to just be like, obviously, these are equal.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's just desperate and afraid.
Yeah, and those things will make you do lots of things, will make you agree to lots of things. This whole ritual that we don't get to see because Mary Maz makes Mary Maz. I can't just call her that because that makes me sound like I'm going to like one of those hand clap things. You know? You know the hand clap games?
Yes. What you're saying that saying Mary Maz sounds like a hand clap game?
Yeah, because it was Miss Mary Mac.
Mary Mac. Oh, dressed in black, back with silver buttons all down her back. Yep, I forgot about that shit.
I still know the whole song, but I'm not gonna sing it to you guys. But I do still know it and the hand moves.
I don't remember the hand moves. I don't think. I don't think I do. But I loved those games so much.
I did too. I used to. But okay, focus. So she makes Daenerys get out of the tent, along with everybody. So we don't see what magic she's doing. But Daenerys can see, like, the shadows in the tent.
Yeah.
And at one point, there is more than just Mary Maz in there.
Yep.
And I have questions.
That's fair. That's fair.
What is happening?
I mean, who knows?
I mean, but she says she learned this magic in, I don't know, someplace. I feel like we went in the show, too. In the Shadowlands, she says.
Of the Shy.
Yeah. Oh, her teacher was a blood mage from the Shadowlands.
Right.
And this is some magic that I don't know if we should be fucking with. I'm just going to say that, right? This sounds... You know what this sounds like? This sounds like if it had even worked, right? Say she had cured him, he would come back wrong. There'd be something wrong with him.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
That's kind of what she says when she's trying to warn Daenerys, because to her credit, she attempts to warn her. And it's like, this is like dark magic that is sort of, I'm trying to find the spot where she actually... She
says it's hard. She says there's this is a spell, but it is hard and dark. Some would say that death is cleaner.
Cleaner, that's the one. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Miri was setting her up to try this bullshit. Because she knew this would fracture the entire, Khalasar.
You know what? How about that? I didn't even think of that. She undoes this whole well, it was going to be undone the minute he fell off his horse. So that is a thing, right?
But I'm saying if she had actually poisoned him instead of helping.
Oh.
And drawn it out like this.
That would be some diabolical shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
You know, I like that though, because imagine if that was planned, if she really, I love there's a moment too when he's so sick and Daenerys says it was just a cut, right?
Yeah.
I know it tells us like how he was injured, but there's no way for me to know if it was like a life-threatening injury. You know,
yeah.
I'm not a doctor, and I can't tell from the book like exactly. It sounded like it was mostly his muscle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it was right through his chest and like a hunk of muscle.
Right.
It probably should not have been a life-threatening injury. But you know, I don't know. I like this idea though. I really like the idea that maybe she poisoned him. She saw an opportunity. And she just took the whole shit down.
Yeah. I like it, too.
I like that, too. I don't know if that's what happened, but I like it. As sad as it is for Daenerys and Cal.
Yeah, that's fair. But it's hard to be on the side of the slavers.
You know, I mean, they are a roving band of pillagers and rapers, and, you know, they're not great.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm torn. I'm conflicted.
Yeah, I feel like George R. R. Martin's pretty good at this. Because this is the sort of thing that, like, to bring up the turf, J.K. was not good at, showing us more than one point of view and having it feel like I'm presenting both of these. I'm not going to tell you what to believe or agree with or like, but I'm going to put these forth. It always felt like she was taking a side very specifically. Yeah. And so
there was not a lot of conflict.
Yeah, it just felt like it was her having a very clear black and white, this is the evil side and this is the good side. And there are some characters that like do fall slightly outside that, but I think that we all have had our say on that, so we won't go there.
That's true.
But I think that George R. R. Martin is better at letting things be really ambivalent and just like, well, maybe it's not good. Maybe it is good. Yeah. I don't know. Who are you talking to? And who do you like better? Just like let it come down to something that simple. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And are you okay with that? You know,
it's so because like it's so. I remember when I first started watching the show, and it was so clear that like the Starks were the good guys, mm-hmm. right? And you're supposed to root for them. And granted, the Lannisters are unlikable. You know, mm-hmm. but there's a lot of unlikable people on the show. But at the very beginning, you know, Ned and Robert are the good guys. But we know that Robert, like, ordered all these children to be murdered.
Yeah.
And yet somehow we're still thinking of him as like, oh, he's one of the good guys. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know? And to use the Harry Potter as an example, you know, there's no ambiguity. You know who the good guys are.
Yep.
You know who the bad guy is, right? Which is why that thing she tried to do with Draco at the end falls so flat and doesn't ring true at all.
Yep.
Because there's no work. She put no work into that mm-hmm. throughout the course of the books, you know? Mm-hmm. But yeah, so far, I'm not particularly rooting for anyone in these books.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
You know, it's such a different experience than how I went into the show, which I was so positive that I could trust what they were giving me because it's always that way. Mm-hmm. You know, I guess maybe that's what's so great about the series when you first come to it is that we all bring our baggage from everything else we've ever read and watched to every new thing we do. Mm-hmm. And you come into them with certain expectations you don't even realize you have. And then you get to something like this, and George Martin is like, oh, hey, watch this.
Yeah.
You know, that must be really, really cool when you first get to it, that, you know.
Yeah, I think it's part of the reason why, because, like, people have criticized the books for how much rape they contain. And I have always sort of, I understand where they're coming from, like in a hypothetical, but in action within the books, it has always really felt to me like he isn't super graphic and horrible about, like, there are some rape scenes that I have read that I will never forget because they were just too much. Thank you. And it's always felt like, for me, George R. R. Martin is like, I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen and wasn't a main event. Like, this is certainly a thing. But I'm also not going to, like, be in the perspective of somebody who's being raped or raping and make you, like, live it the way that you would if you were reading from a perspective. I am going to address it, and I'm going to make it really, like, uncomfortable that it's occasionally going to be somebody that you otherwise like engaging in this. Like Drogo, you know? He's over here arguing with Daenerys that she doesn't get to save these women. And we're still like, oh, I wish Drogo would live. I wish he was okay. I mean, and he's out here being like, no, women should be raped. That's how this works. Like, you know, it's just, he's, I don't know. I just find it pretty interesting. And that's not an easy thing to pull off and make it feel like that the author has done it without showing his hand a lot and making it feel like, oh, I'm turning a mirror on society,
right.
You know, like, ugh. So I sort of appreciate that.
Yeah, I think I think for me, and we haven't, I mean, I think it's going to get much worse in the books, you know, from what I've heard over the years. But my point is, I think that the only thing that would make me sort of uncomfortable is I understand having it as a not necessarily a plot point, but having it as something that is a what is the word? A symptom or a result of constant war, you know, that women. You know, we talked a lot about Catelyn spending all these years waiting, you know, for her men to come back from war. But the thing about Catelyn is, in the story, she's of incredible privilege. So she's safe waiting for all these men to come back from war.
Right.
There are untold numbers of women who were, like, on the ground when these wars are happening, whether they're a big host, you know, coming through their towns, you know, or whatever.
Right.
And those women are not protected behind big walls, you know.
Yep.
And even the good guys, right? Like Catelyn is waiting for Brandon to come back, her father to come back, for Ned to come back. When they're out in those fields, you know, we don't know what the fuck they're doing. You know, maybe their host rolled through a town and raped a bunch of women because that's just what the fuck you do on their way to the next battle. You know,
yeah.
But what I was trying to circle around to was that I don't want to have a rape in the story and not be affected by that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't want to live through it. I don't want to be in the first person while it's happening and get every graphic detail. But I also am uncomfortable with the idea of it being just background.
Agreed. That's fair.
You know? And so and it's kind of already happened where you talk about, you know, the Dothraki scene. And luckily, that's a moment where Daenerys kind of like steps up and says something, and that's what draws attention to that it's even happening. Because if the Daenerys character doesn't say, hey, no, don't do that, then that's just a chapter where the Dothraki run through a town and rape a bunch of women and then go to the next town, and it means nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm making sense or not, but
no, I understand what you mean. I wouldn't say for that, like, that it seemed like background to me. But I can see how some people would feel that way about it. For me, it felt like I am definitely going to tell you that this is happening, and I'm going to, like, the way he describes the fact that these women are being bent over piles of corpses. Like, really horrific. The kind of trauma that just, that's it. You know, like, that's it. And for you, that will never leave you. I felt like it was less background and more matter of fact. You know what I mean? Where it just seemed for me like this is just him being like, here's what's happening. That's the literal, that's the literal bare bones of the scene. And I'm not going to put any emotional, like, wording in here to influence you. Because I don't have to. Because this is a horror. And I don't need to tell you that. That's what it is. And you will read it and you will be horrified. And that I trust that the words are enough. Without me having to try and manipulate you into reacting a certain way. But, you know, everybody has a different relationship to writing styles.
Yeah.
So yeah, this ends with her, like, there's this fight that breaks out, and people are bailing. Drogo is in this tub of water. Miri's dancing around.
Oh, it's not water.
Wait, what?
I said, oh, it's not water.
Isn't it? Don't they pour...
I thought he was in a tub of blood. Isn't
all
the horse blood?
The horse blood gets poured in there also. Because they put him in the tub at first of water with, like, herbs and stuff in it, right? And I thought that they just cut the horse's throat on top of him while he was in that tub of water. But maybe they emptied it and then put him in there? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit of both.
But yeah, so he's in that tent. Miri's dancing. You can see shadows, and it's like she's not alone. There's like something that looks like a wolf. There's a man that looks like he's on fire. And Daenerys begins to have these stabbing pains, and she doesn't put together what is likely happening here. And she gets, they like pick her up because they think she's going into labor, and she can tell that's like not what's going on, but they're trying to carry her into the tent that Miri told her absolutely fucking nobody can come in here. And they carry her in, and that is the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a weird thing because there's like a bit of, to me, what Miri is saying is, no, not your life, your baby's life. But then there's this moment where it feels like like Daenerys sees it as them carrying her into the tent as the like death knell for the baby.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. I think I thought it was her saying, you know, you can't go in the tent because she's still under the impression that this woman can save Drogo. But there's a part where she says what was wrong with them they couldn't see, talking about like Jorah and a few like handmaids that are there.
Right.
That does kind of feel like maybe she's getting it.
Yeah,
so
that's true. I see what you mean there.
Yeah. There's also a horrible moment where Jorah is like, you know, tell the birthing women of the Dothraki to come, and nobody will come near her.
Yeah.
Because they think she's cursed now because of what she has allowed to happen.
Yeah, that's like that shit where it's just, it's weird because she's better, obviously, than her brother was at understanding the ways of the Dothraki and being sensitive to their customs and understanding that, you know, her way of doing shit is alien to them as theirs are to her. But then in this moment, she's just not comprehending.
Yeah. This is so upsetting.
It is, isn't it? I know.
Lord have mercy. Who would have thought that, you know, this would be as, I don't know, as impactful as it was all this time later.
You gotta stop hitting your mic or whatever you're doing over there.
Sorry.
Bonk, bonk. Bonk, bonk. All right, so I'm going to say hi to new patrons real quick. This week, we have Carlo, Kirsten Blessing, Chloe, and Gwen Aspton. So welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for becoming patrons. I hope that y'all are enjoying the Mistborn coverage, and if you're at a high enough level, the Unsober coverage. And I felt like I had an announcement to make, but now I'm realizing I don't think I do, actually. I have so many plans in my head that I know I will eventually have to make announcements for. Going to Florida again for the wedding planning in July and whatnot. But it's just not relevant yet. And there's no point talking about it now because people don't remember, should I say, anyway. Like, let's be...
They don't even listen to this part of the podcast.
They don't. Like, as soon as I'm like, I'm welcome new patrons, they're like, forward. I think the only time anybody actually listens is if they see that there's like another 30 minutes after I say that. And they're like, okay, clearly they talk about something. But yeah, I'll wait for that shit. Oh, no, you know what? I know what it was going to be. Although it's still also not quite relevant, but Jamie and I just had a pretty intense conversation with the finale of season 8 of Doctor Who, where we're deciding if we want to continue covering that show at all. So if y'all are fans, you should, weigh in. There's a Doctor Who spoiler group on Facebook that Jamie is the admin for. And let her know if you care. Because, we do take it into account. It's just that I have finally, I feel like, kind of vindicated because Jamie has reached the point that I reached a few seasons ago, where she's just like, I actively don't trust everybody now because they kept saying it would get better and I haven't seen it happen. And now I'm just sort of like, well, y'all, I can't believe you then. And I'm like, all right, see, we're on the same page now. But they may still convince us. They may manage to say something that makes us go, well, all right, we'll give it a try. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And I think that's about everything. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, just that I keep meaning to take some time off, but I keep not doing it. But when I do get around to doing it, I'll be sure to let you know.
All right. Well, there it goes. Oh, you know what I did want to mention, actually? 2 things that I just thought of now. First of all, Krista, who is a co-host of Unspoiled, many of you know from the other shows that she has done, mostly co-hosting with Jamie. She also co-hosted with me for some patrons-only Great British Bake Off coverage. But Krista has begun a business of her own called Lawbridge, and it is basically like a counseling, is that the word, consulting service?
Consulting, yeah.
Which, it's a really cool, idea because she is the person that you're like, I need to figure out what resources are available out there. Who do I go to? And Krista's like, I have a spreadsheet here of the resources that you just mentioned in passing that I thought would probably be helpful. She's just always been somebody who wants to help, is ready to put the time in to do that. And she realized that this was going to be a good business idea. She has worked in the legal profession. She's a lawyer, but it really wasn't connecting with her being a lawyer. And so she was like, you know what I can do? I can use the fact that I know what it's like to be a lawyer and help other people who are breaking into this. And so this is what she's done, is she's launched this service. So it's the-law-bridge.com. And I'm going to read the little make real connections bit from her site. Everyone says to find a mentor. It's a daunting task for a lot of people. Where can you get a mentor? Bar associations, work, LinkedIn cold calls, open up a directory and throw a dart? I'm about to make this seem more difficult. You should try for more than one mentor. And this is just all about the various connections she has, because it comes up so frequently. Krista knows everybody. You talk about a fucking, celebrity or somebody in politics, and she'll be like, oh, I met them at such and such.
It's really true.
So she's, very much putting that to work here and finds people who can help you get the information you need if she can't. It's just a really cool idea. So anyway, thelawbridge.com, the-law-bridge.com. And I just like that it's a pun for drawbridge, which I think is classic Krista for her to make her name a pun. And I really wish her well in this, and I hope that it's I think that this is the kind of thing that would be useful in so many professions, for there to just be a person who's a liaison for oh yeah, no, that's not how people do it. I get why you think that's how it would go, but trust me, nobody is going to like that you're trying to do it this way. There's just some like etiquette and stuff to certain professions that you would never know unless you fuck up really and like make an idiot out of yourself, or unless somebody tells you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So
it's like mentoring, but in such a way that it's accessible to people who may not be, it might not be accessible to. You know, I think it's a fabulous idea.
And one of my favorite lines, and I'm trying to find exactly where it is because I was like reading her thing, and she said something in because she's got a fair amount of like articles on here explaining the various ways in which she can help, and one of them said something like, I have known so many Black women, I have known so many Latina women who are amazing at their jobs and fonts of information. There's also been some white men who are good at their job too. And I just cracked up because that's like how Black women or women in general can be written about usually in articles like that, where it's like, we know so many people, and then it tacked on at the end, and some of them are even women. And it's just like, oh, wow, really? Amazing. And I love that she, like, turned that around and just... It's like, yeah, occasionally some white guys are pretty good at it. I just like the tacking on of the what we consider often the default. It's appreciated.
Exactly, yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. And then the last one is I wanted to remind everybody to check out the War for the Tower podcast, which is hosted by Jeff, who is a patron. And... it's the Dark Tower themed RPG game. And I covered the Dark Tower, for those of you who don't know, with Miles. And that shit was a ride. Ew. I really enjoyed the first half so much. And then it was still sort of fun though, because it's not the kind of thing that goes bad by half. It goes bad by the Stephen King way of going bad, which really is rollicking. It's a mess, but you're also like, wow, that was memorable. But the point with the War for the Tower is that they are trying to play this game, tell this story, but also correct some of the like major fuck-ups from the original series, which I appreciate because, some of it's just egregious. It just is. So, guys, check out War for the Tower podcast. You can find them War for the Tower podcast or warforthetower.com, or search War for the Tower on your podcatcher, and let them know where you heard about them, because it's always nice for people to realize that their sponsorship actually is effective. So just give them a little shout and be like, hey, tell them Natasha sent you. And that's it. All right, I'm gonna wrap. Is there anything else you want to add, ma'am?
No, ma'am.
All right. Well, thank you again, everybody, for listening. Hope you're enjoying the chapters. We don't have that much further to go. From here, we've got, 1, 2, 3, 4 more episodes for the first book. So, in a month, we're going to be finished with the first book.
That's crazy.
Right?
When did we start? January?
Time has no meaning to me anymore.
It really doesn't.
It's nothing.
Like, it could have been January last year that we started. I really don't even remember, because it's just now March, right?
Mm-hmm. April.
And
it's April now.
Oh my God, it's April now. And I just moved in January, and were we recording this before I moved, girl? I don't know.
I think we were. I think we took a break.
I think we started last year. No.
I don't know.
I don't remember. I feel like January was when we started, but I don't remember which January.
It's really hard, okay?
Wow. All right, then. On that note, let's wrap this shit up.
Yes. Thank you guys again, and we will see you next week with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.